Hello everybody and welcome to Dead Frontier Outbreak. This is a kind of a choose your own adventure game based in a zombie apocalypse. I believe there's quite some few games of this series, and there's also like a massive multiplayer online browser game of it. But I never really enjoyed that one. However, the choose your own adventure game, the one we will play now, I really like that one. So here we go.
It started as a normal day, just like any other. I took a shower and grabbed a quick cup of coffee before heading out of the front door and waving goodbye to my loving wife. I jumped on board the bus, sat down, turned on my MP3 player, and promptly entered my usual daydream state. I finally arrived at my office building, headed up the 10th floor, and sat down at my desk to see a huge pile of paperwork. I sighed and got started.
Alright.
The scream coming from down the hall broke my concentration. I considered going to see what it was, but the thought quickly passed. Probably just another hysterical secretary overreacting to a spider. Just as I started getting back to work, something else grabbed my attention. I peered out the window into the street below, and to my astonishment, saw a scene of utter chaos. People fighting, even killing each other for seemingly no reason. By this time, some of my coworkers had gotten up from their desks and joined me in staring out the window.
Let's see. So we can turn on the radio built into my cell phone, go down the hall to look at the TV in the common room, sit back down and continue my work, or grab another cup of coffee. I will go down to the hallway.
The common room was crowded with coworkers, and I could barely see or hear anything with all the commotion. I only managed to pick out the phrases psychovirus and destroy the brain.
Oh, okay.
At this point, I felt myself entering a state of mild shock. It was obvious that whatever was going on was serious, and that a significant percentage of the population were going to be killed or wounded over the course of the next few days. My thoughts quickly turned to my wife. Was she okay? What if these maniacs were near our home?
I'm not sure yet if the outbreak has gone that far that, that the connection is lost. I doubt it, seeing as people are still at work. But I think I should just go home. Yeah.
I knew that the phone lines would most likely be overwhelmed,
Exactly.
so I decided not to waste time by calling. I headed straight home.
Alright.
I began to make my way through a series of corridors that lead to the elevator. On my way, I noticed a struggle out of the corner of my eye. I turned to see a disfigured man frantically clawing at and biting a young woman's leg. Blood was already pouring from her multiple wounds. The woman cried out for me to help her.
It's a zombie apocalypse, so she's got bit. So, and you know, it's my wife might be in danger, so
I continued down the hallway, ignoring the woman's cries for
sorry.
help. She would have been infected, and it wasn't worth the risk.
Well, he knows what I'm getting at, so.
I arrived at the elevator, but to my dismay, it seemed many other people had the same idea. I heard a ping, and the elevator doors slid open. In a split second, the large crowd of office staff pushed and shoved their way into the tiny metal box.
I'm not going to jump out of the window, then I'll be dead. I'll probably better take the stairs.
I quickly made my way down the stairs to the ground floor. Sure, I was a little out of breath, but at least I saved time and avoided a potentially lethal situation.
Yeah, exactly, because someone in the elevator might be affected.
I eventually reached the ground floor and entered the lobby. The scene in front of me was one of extreme violence. The security team was desperately battling with a swarm of infected, and they appeared to be losing. I watched helplessly as a guard on the opposite side of the room was torn limb from limb. I noticed his gun lying on the floor just a few meters away from his dismembered corpse.
might come alive, but I'll have to go and try to get it.
I managed to dodge several zombies, but just as soon as I got close to the gun, I slipped on a pool of blood. I stumbled directly into the group of infected. I frantically tried to escape their grip, but it was hopeless.
God damn it! Okay. Ah, crap. Alright, so, we're back. Alright, so this time, I am going to, let's see, make a dash for the main exit. So last time we got devoured in pieces, because there was such a huge swarm of zombies. So I'll just try to leave the lobby and try to escape through the rear exit. This time.
I managed to slip away without any infected noticing, and proceeded quickly towards the rear exit.
You don't have a weapon yet though, that's unfortunate, but...
I made my way through several corridors towards the back of the building. As I approached the rear entrance, I spotted a hefty padlock across the bolt, making it practically impossible to open without a key. I cursed my bad luck and tried to figure out my next move. The janitor would have had the key, but reaching his office would have required going back towards the lobby.
I'll just search for a window to climb through.
I realized that breaking the door down would be impossible, and that heading back would be too dangerous. So I set about searching for another exit.
Well, that's good.
I remembered that there was a small window in the male bathroom just a few doors down the corridor. I arrived at the bathroom door and pushed it open. Suddenly, I heard a bestial roar coming from further down the corridor. A dozen infected had spotted me and were now heading in my direction. I quickly entered the stall and spotted the window I was thinking of. However, to my dismay, it was much smaller than I had remembered. I thought that I would probably fit, but I knew it was going to be a very tricky maneuver.
Ah, crap. Is that the bathroom before? Oh, this is difficult. This is really difficult. I mean, it's adrenaline, so if you were in that situation, you would probably do anything to get out, so in that case, we would go straight through the window.
Not wanting to waste time, I set about trying to squeeze through the window. A few awkward movements and a lot of pain later, I managed to force my way into the street, escaping the infected with only a few seconds to spare.
Ah, okay, we're doing this.
I dropped from the window and landed on the pavement with a heavy thud. Looking up and down the quiet back street, I tried to decide what to do next. Eventually I came to the conclusion that my best bet was to head to a main road and try to steal a vehicle or catch a lift. I jogged down the quiet street for a few hundred feet before stopping to catch my breath.
Okay.
I looked up briefly and saw a little girl wandering aimlessly in the middle of the road.
No. Screw the girl.
The girl was most likely infected.
Yeah, probably.
And therefore I decided to ignore her and continue down the street.
Alright.
I eventually arrived at the main road. As I suspected, the scene wasn't pretty. In every direction I could see people either trying to fight or flee from the numerous infected. An array of dismembered corpses already littered the streets. I suddenly felt nauseous, and within a few moments I was vomiting my breakfast all over the pavement.
That happens.
I wiped my mouth with my sleeve and looked up to see a bus driving down the street. The number was the same as the one I usually took home. There appeared to be a lot of people on board already, but I thought I might be able to squeeze in.
No. There's definitely someone who was infected in there, so...
I realized that getting on the crowded bus probably wasn't a good idea.
Exactly.
If someone on board were infected, then there would have been no escape.
Voila. That's exactly what I mean.
As I continued down the street, I noticed several groups of people. Just across the road was a group of men with rifles. They appeared to be having fun shooting the zombies rather than trying to escape. In the alley, I could just about see a group of teenage boys armed with a variety of makeshift melee weapons. A few meters from where I was standing, a paramedic and an armed police officer were helping a wounded man, and as I glanced over my shoulder, I saw a group of survivors from my office building, heading in the same direction.
Oh.
I decided that it was probably best to team up with other survivors.
Well, the men with the rifles, they'll probably think I'm a zombie, so definitely shoot me. The teenage boys might work. Because I could yell at them, hey, I'm not infected, you know. The paramedic and the police officer would be a good idea, but the wounded man is probably infected, so that's not gonna help. And my co-workers, apparently they're survivors, so I think I should better stay with them.
I jogged over to the group of my fellow co-workers. They seemed happy to see me.
Yes! Okay, I made the right choice, it seems.
I told the group that I thought we should try to find some transportation to get out of the city center. One of them suggested we go to the parking area a few blocks down. We quickly agreed to our strategy and made our way down the street.
Oh, okay. I can't choose.
As we approached the car parking area, we noticed a few infected wandering idly around the entrance. There was no real way to avoid them. Oh, this is hard, because someone will definitely die if I try to distract them. I will probably die. Or I might get split up and still be alone. If I convince someone, I just know that they will screw up and therefore die. So maybe I should just fight as a group. So, yeah, let's do that. We moved towards the zombies, clutching whatever makeshift weapons we had, and tried to engage them. At first things seemed to be going well. We knocked one of them to the ground and someone managed to smash his head with a rock. However, it wasn't long before we got careless, and one of us was bitten.
Crap.
Eventually the noise from all the commotion had attracted yet more inflicted, and we soon found ourselves hopelessly outnumbered, with little hope of escape.
No! Crap! Okay, I'll see you guys in a moment. Alright, so this time, if we run past them, there's more of them probably. And someone will definitely get bitten. So, I don't know what to do. Running past them is a bad idea, so I'll just try to distract them.
I began making as much noise as I could, running in circles around the infected. My plan worked, and they began to follow me away from the entrance.
It's good.
The others swiftly entered the parking area and began searching for a suitable vehicle. I was glad they had made it inside, but I was still in serious danger. I eventually managed to lose the infected, and quickly caught up with the others. But I promised myself I'd never volunteer to be bait again.
I can see why.
We eventually found a few different options for vehicles in which we could make our escape. On the far side of the parking area, we found a pair of road motorbikes. Closer to us was a four-wheel drive all-terrain Jeep, a large freight truck, and a convertible sports car.
I'd go with the Jeep, because it's still rather fast. It's big. The truck would make too much noise and it's hard to control. And the sports car, well, it's really fast, but not a lot of people can fit in, so I'll go with the Jeep.
I suggested that we take the Jeep, and the others quickly agreed. Having the ability to go off-road if necessary would be incredibly useful, especially since many roads would have been blocked with traffic, accidents, or zombies.
Exactly.
We approached the Jeep and peered inside. To our dismay, we saw a pair of infected inside, desperately clawing at the windows in an attempt to escape.
Pulling them out will probably be a bad idea. Trying another vehicle though, I don't know which one we should pick. So we'll just pull them out.
We opened the doors, reached inside the Jeep, and tried to pull the infected from the vehicle. As I dragged the rotting body onto the tarmac, I felt a sharp pain. I looked down, and to my horror, saw blood pouring from several bite marks on my left forearm. I momentarily exchanged glances with the others before running as far away from them as I could. It wouldn't be long before I became a zombie.
But you could have smacked their head first. You didn't have to pull them out. You could have picked up a pipe or something and just tapped them in the brain. No, this is bullshit. Alright, so the Jeep didn't really work out, or I could suggest taking another vehicle. So, I mean, I could just go... I don't know what else would I would pick. The freight truck is a bit too big. And it's difficult to go off-road and all. The sports car is fast, but it's small. So, I think we should go with the motorbikes? I don't know.
I suggested that we take the motorbikes. The others didn't seem to like the idea, stating that maneuvering bikes between the infected could be tricky, with 2 or 3 riders wedged on each one. The rest of the group decided that we would take the Jeep.
Alright, that was my idea too.
We approached the Jeep and peered inside. To our dismay, we saw a pair of infected inside, desperately clawing at the windows in an attempt to escape.
Yeah, well, last time that didn't really go through, so this time we will try another vehicle.
I made my suggestion, but the others didn't listen.
Oh.
They really wanted that Jeep, and a few zombies weren't going to stand in their way.
Alright, then they get killed, fine.
The others immediately flung open the doors and started trying to drag the zombies out. However, without my help, they were having serious trouble, and it seemed like they would most likely end up dead if I didn't intervene.
Yeah, well, I got killed last time, so... if I'm alone, I would... I don't know. I'd probably try and help him. But this time take a weapon, please.
I stepped forward, reached inside the Jeep, and tried to help pull one of the infected from the vehicle. As I dragged the rotting body onto the tarmac, I felt a sharp pain.
Well, now you're dead again!
I looked down, and to my horror, saw blood pouring from several bite marks in my left forearm. I momentarily exchanged glances with...
You should have taken the weapon and bashed his head in again! Which I just told you to, but no. Alright, so I will suggest to try another vehicle again. Yeah. Okay, so this time I will go, seeing as I will be alone, I'll go with the sports car.
I headed towards the sports car and didn't look back.
Alright.
I climbed aboard my chosen vehicle and sped away from the car park onto the main street. By then the roads were littered with bodies and car wreckages. It was all I could do to avoid them. Everywhere I looked, I could see only scenes of carnage. It seemed that those not already infected were fighting a losing battle. My thoughts quickly turned to my wife. I tried to tell myself that she would be okay, but that didn't stop the horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. I knew I had to get home as soon as possible.
Exactly.
In the distance, I could see a gas station with a few of the zombies on the forecourt. I quickly glanced down at the fuel gauge and saw that I only had about half a tank remaining.
Of course. How far is it from home, though? That's what I'm wondering. So... we'll just continue down the road.
I decided not to stop for gas or supplies due to the potential danger.
Yeah.
Half a gas tank was more than enough to get home anyway.
Alright, that's all I needed to know.
I continued down the road before turning onto the main highway out of town. However, it wasn't long before I noticed a mass of vehicles blocking the road ahead. The combined sound of all the honking, shouting, and screaming was deafening. Nobody had kept to their lanes, and cars were packed so closely together that not even a bicycle could squeeze through. The blockage extended so far down the road that it was literally impossible to discern what the cause was.
Wait patiently is just going to kill me. Take the vehicle off the road and go into... Whoa!
I decided that there was no point in waiting for the traffic to clear, and that without the Jeep, driving off the road was just too dangerous. I headed back the way I came and turned off the highway at the first exit. I soon found a safer, albeit less direct route home.
Oh, okay, so... By accident, I clicked my right mouse button, then I clicked it away, but I picked that choice apparently. But apparently it was the right one, so it doesn't really matter.
As I sped down the disturbingly quiet back road, my mind began to wander. Without the distraction of imminent danger, I began to remember the horrific scenes I had witnessed just an hour ago. Images of mangled corpses flashed before my eyes, and my head began to spin. I swerved onto the wrong side of the road, just as another vehicle pulled out from a concealed entrance. I braked sharply, but it was too late to avoid a collision. Amazingly, I wasn't seriously injured, but my ride was badly damaged.
How about the other person? Is he dead? See if the other driver's hurt. Try to repair the vehicle. I'll see if he is hurt. Yeah.
I walked over to the car and I opened the driver's door. He was unconscious, but didn't seem to be badly wounded. As I wondered what to do next, I noticed 3 large bite marks on his upper arm and realized that it wouldn't be long before he became one of the infected. I decided to leave him and continue on foot.
Alright.
After a half an hour of walking, I began to recognize my surroundings and knew that I would soon be home. There were several different routes I could take.
Follow the train line, take a shot through the cornfields. The train line is probably blocked too. The main road is just too dangerous. The cornfields don't give a nice sight, so I'll go through the woods.
I decided to get off the road and take a shortcut. I headed into the woods, realizing that the mindless infected would have a hard time navigating the undergrowth.
Exactly.
And that there would be very few of them in the area anyway.
Alright.
I finally arrived in my neighborhood, exhausted. I knew that my house was just a little further down the street, but the area was swarming with the infected. Most of them seemed distracted by what few survivors remained, but I knew it was only a matter of time before they noticed me. I remembered about a small alleyway nearby, one that would take me most of the way home in relative safety. I entered the alley, and as expected, it seemed totally devoid of life. However, as I walked past a large dumpster, an infected old man stepped out of the shadows and tried to grab me.
Grab him by the neck is just too dangerous. Punching him in the face too, probably. Grab his torso and push him away. If you do it quick, then that might work, so...
I grabbed his shoulder and pushed him backward, narrowly escaping being bitten.
Well, narrowly is good enough, so...
I had bought myself valuable time, but it wouldn't take long for the creature to regain its balance and come at me again. I turned to run back the way I had came, only to see that another group of them had followed and were now blocking my retreat.
Probably, yeah.
My only hope was to try and get past the lone infected.
Grab him really close. Try to run past him. If I throw the brick, it will probably miss. So I think it's better to let him get a bit closer and then smash his head.
Grabbing a brick, I waited just long enough for the infected to get close before smashing it into his face. There was a sickening crack as his jawbone fractured and blood sprayed from his mouth.
Good.
My former neighbor fell to the ground, and before he could get back up, I was able to run past.
Alright, that's nice.
I sped down the alley and back onto the street. When I looked over my shoulder, there was no sign of my pursuers. I could see my house now, just 100 feet or so away. My heart sank when I saw yet another group of infected wandering aimlessly between me and my goal.
Try to go through the neighbor's rear gardens. That might actually work. Go with that one.
I decided that it was too dangerous to carry on down the street. I went around the back of one of the neighbors' houses and climbed over the fence into their garden. It was tiring, but I carried on scrambling over the fences until I got to my own backyard.
It's good, it's good.
As I approached the house, I noticed the glass in the back door had been smashed and the door left slightly ajar. I was terrified for my wife's safety.
Yeah, me too. Go find a weapon.
I realized that whoever had broken into the house could still be in there, and without a weapon, I wouldn't be able to help my wife.
Yeah.
I headed over to the shed and checked my pockets. Luckily, I still had my keys and was able to remove the padlock and open the door.
Good.
Inside, there was a wide range of tools to choose from.
Chainsaw, sledgehammer, crowbar, take the hand axe. Chainsaw is probably, there's probably no fuel in it. Sledgehammer is very effective, but yet slow. The crowbar is a good idea, seeing as I can also open locks with it and doors. The hand axe, however, would be my favorite, but I will go with the crowbar.
I took the crowbar, knowing that it would be easy to swing indoors, yet still heavy enough to cave in a human skull.
Exactly.
With my weapon in hand, I left the shed and walked back to my house. Before I could enter, I discovered why the back door had been left ajar. A teenage looter emerged from the house carrying my television, obviously intent on profiting from the crisis. When he saw me, he dropped the TV and pulled out a large kitchen knife. At that moment, I couldn't tell which one of us was more afraid.
So he dropped. He dropped what? He tried to steal my television, and then he dropped it, making it defective. What? Yeah, you can go, kid.
I told the looter that I wasn't going to hurt him, and that he could take the TV and go. He didn't bother to pick it back up. Instead, he ran over to the nearby fence and climbed over into the neighbor's garden.
Oh, okay.
Having dealt with the looter, I walked in through the back door. I was relieved to finally be safely indoors, but I couldn't rest yet. Not until I was certain my wife was okay.
I'm gonna barricade the back door.
I quickly shut the back door and locked it, then looked around for some furniture to wedge in front of it. It took me a few minutes to properly secure the entrance, but at least I knew nobody would be able to force their way in.
Alright.
I began searching the ground floor for my wife. As I came into the living room, I saw that John from next door was standing there. He had his back to me and was clearly oblivious to my presence. His shirt was covered in red stains.
Well, seeing as the looter was there and John didn't notice, or didn't do anything, he's probably infected, so I'll just attack him with my weapon.
John was surely infected, so I snuck up behind him and hit him as hard as I could on the back of the head. His skull made a satisfying crack and he fell to the floor, dead. I had never liked him much anyway.
Yes!
As I went to go upstairs, I noticed a note had been left for me by the front door. I recognized my wife's handwriting immediately. The note said that she couldn't wait for me any longer and that she was going to pack her bags and take the car to her parents' house in the countryside. As I read the note, my heart sank. I prayed that she would be able to make it to her parents in one piece, but knowing how hard it had been for me to get here, I couldn't help but wonder if she was still alive. When I realized I may never see her again, I began to feel tears rolling down my cheek.
The question is, was her car still there? Because that wasn't told, so... I'll just continue searching the house.
I pulled myself together and resolved to keep searching. I needed to make sure the house was secure before planning my next move.
Yeah, okay.
As I climbed the stairs, I heard an odd shuffling noise coming from my bedroom. I didn't know if it was my wife, a looter, or another of the infected.
I'll just slowly open the door.
I slowly pushed the door open and stepped inside.
Alright.
The scene that greeted me will haunt my nightmares for years to come.
boy.
My beautiful wife was pinned on the floor, desperately trying to fight off one of the infected. She could barely keep the creature at bay, and if I didn't act immediately, she would surely die.
Oh! I'll just kick him off.
I ran ran at the infected and kicked it in the face with all my might. It was enough to get the beast away from my wife, and I was able to quickly finish the job without the risk of hitting her by mistake.
Yeah, exactly. Alright, good.
I was finally reunited with my wife. I dropped the weapon and held her as tightly as I could.
Aww.
In that moment, I was happier than I had ever been, yet the feeling would not last long. I asked her if she was okay, and she showed me her hand. Blood dripped from several bite marks on her fingers. I didn't know if she would become infected or not, or even how much longer she had. She sobbed as I struggled to decide what to do.
Oh no. Oh. Oh yeah, blood dripped from several on her fingers. Oh! Then you just cut off the fingers.
I knew I had to do something and do it quickly. If I could stop the spread of the infection, I might just be able to save her life.
Exactly.
We ran down to the kitchen, took a clean meat cleaver from the knife rack, and tied an improvised tourniquet around her wrist. Within seconds it was over, and I was carefully dressing the wounds with bandages from our first aid kit. I didn't know if she would survive or not, but at least now we had hope. My wife and I spent some time discussing what to do next. We realized that we couldn't stay in the house forever, as it was just too dangerous this close to civilization. We decided that our best bet was to load up the car with food and supplies, and then head for her parents' house out in the country. I made sure the house was secure, dragged the corpses down to the basement, and then helped my wife get everything ready. She looked pale and weak, but it didn't seem like she would turn. At least not for a while yet. By the time everything was ready, it was already nightfall, so we decided to spend one more night at home before hitting the road. I don't think either of us slept that night, but it was better than traveling in the dark. We left at dawn.
Okay, so I survived the day. I saved my wife. Tactics, rank A. You have a solid understanding of zombie outbreaks and your survival skills are far above average. You'd probably survive a real outbreak. Compassion, rank B. Even in this living hell you try your best to do the right thing, although it's not always possible to save everyone. Alright, so that was the first episode of Dead Frontier Outbreak. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly did. It's been a long time since I played this actually, so I didn't really remember how it went. But I don't know how many more parts there are for this one, for this series, but we will find out soon enough. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, just leave a like, a comment, and tell me what you would do in a zombie outbreak. What you should do different than me. And yeah, just let me know and we'll see if we could survive together. Alright, take care everybody. Bye bye.